Leaving British Guiana, we flew into Dutch Guiana, now called Suriname. Its dictator president, Dési Bouterse, is wanted in Europe for cocaine trafficking, but enjoys immunity as a sitting president. The capital, Paramaribo, is a UNESCO heritage city, but the UN recently threatened the government it would strip the title, as the city is left in a constant state of disrepair. We drove east to visit the memorial of Moiwana, the epicenter of the Suriname Guerilla War, which took place from 1986 to 1992. The war started as a feud between the Surinamese Marxist dictator Bouterse and a Maroon Ronnie Brunswick. The Maroons are descendants of slaves from Africa who rebelled against their slave owners, establishing their own fighting communities in the jungle. Ronnie Brunswick formed a small band of jungle commandos out of these communities to oppose Bouteresse's dictatorship. Our local guide, Martina Amoska, is a Maroon herself. She took us to Moiwana, where Bouterse sent his troops to kill Brunswick. They failed, but brutally slaughtered 39 Maroons, mostly children, slicing them with machetes and blowing the brains out of a 6-year-old child. The memorial consists of 39 polyhedron, one for each of the dead.
The African slaves were first brought here to Suriname in the 17th century.
And what countries were they brought from?
They were brought from the west coast of Africa, where you have Nigeria, Ghana, Congo, Bekan, there.
And was there tens of thousands or?
There are millions.
And how did the slaves react to being enslaved here?
They didn't like it to be enslaved because it was living on the plantations was very hard and very difficult. So some of them escaped from the plantation and fled to the entire of the country, where they lived their own life and they settled their own communities.
I understand that they actually fought with weapons against the whites who tried to recapture them.
Yes, they have fight for, in the 18th century, they fight against the Dutch governor.
So this memorial goes back in time, seems to me. It's the same story. The Maroons are always fighting.
Yes.
And what do you think about that in terms of freedom and liberty and of the human person? Do you think that
I
the
think
Maroons have that spirit in them?
The Maroons have that spirit because I am a Maroon woman and I can't stand it that people are enslaved me. So I can understand my ancestors because they didn't want to be enslaved, so they fled. They escaped from the plantations and they show that they can live their own communities in a different area, in a different land. You see? And because you have to think about this, that the slaves which escaped were the slave who couldn't have to be enslaved. And that's the spirit the Maroons get. We get it from our ancestors. Because so as I am here, a Maroon woman, I can't stand it that people will press me, will enslave me. I will always go against that.
This woman lost nearly all of her children at Moiwana. Her children's graves are marked with a polyhedron. Neither she nor our guide wanted to take sides in the fight or criticize Bouterse. It is well known he ordered the massacre, but today vehemently denies it, and it is known he will persecute his detractors.
She said her name is Matema Ayentuna, and 7 children of her were killed when they killed the people in Moiwana.
How were they killed?
Asutuden ki. They shoot them.
Shot them. And why did she survive?
She fled. Fawakate idai do komoto. She was here, and their children were there. When they began shooting, the children ran to this way to reach her, but they kept the children on their way, and so they kept them in the bush. She cried when she think about it. She worried a lot, and when she think about it, she get the feeling to shout. But then she get up, she walked around, and so she tried to help with herself with her stress, because she's stressed.
And does she have any anger towards the government?
She said if he get angry, she can get the children back. So when she thought about it, she cried. You can see the name of their children there in the memorial. It's true story. Okay.
Ronnie Brunswick now serves in the Congress, though he too is wanted for drug trafficking in the Netherlands. But the Maroons carry on alone in Suriname with their strong-willed innate love of freedom. We drove on to the town of Albina, once destroyed in the war, which lies on the shores of the Maroon River.
That is the town of Albina, which was destroyed during the Civil War.
Was it been rebuilt or just say this?
It is now rebuilt, and it's look okay now. Most of the buildings which were damaged were now rebuilt.
We took a small canoe to visit one of the undeveloped Maroon villages, Melinque.
And we went to a Maroon Village, and it was just, I've traveled to a lot of places in Africa and a lot of other countries around the world, and it's just interesting when you go to these villages. They don't have the things we take for granted. I mean, the Maroons aren't running around with cell phones, and they don't have satellite dishes on their huts, and don't have big screen plasma TVs. All this stuff we complain about, or whatever, got to get the newest and the latest. And but they seem pretty happy.
These Maroons still eat the same food they have for decades, a preservative-free pancake that will last over a year, and fish from the river. They drink rainwater collected from cisterns. There is no TV or cell phones or internet here. This door is painted with broken chains, symbolizing the Maroons' desire of freedom at all costs, a symbol of hope in a land of brutal dictators.